Have you ever wondered, how much passive income do I need to retire? That is what we are going to talk about in today's video. We are going to talk about how to calculate how much we are going to need to retire. I'm sure we all want to retire one day, so we are going to need passive income in order to do this. So let's dive in and talk about how to figure this out. The first thing we want to do is to determine our retirement expenses. How much are we going to be spending in our retirement years? Once we figure out our annual expenses, that is going to be the amount we are going to need in passive income every single year. This is going to include a lot of different expenses, like your healthcare expenses, which are usually more expensive later in life. And if you want to be traveling, your traveling expenses, and just your day-to-day living expenses. In order to figure this out, you can take what your expenses are currently, and depending on how far away you are from retirement, but if you are around 20 plus years, there have been studies done that show you live on about 70 to 80% of your current income in retirement years. That could or could not be true for you, so kind of determine where you are with things right now. Do you have a mortgage payment, and is that going to be paid off by the time you retire? Do you have a car payment? Will that be paid off? Are you traveling a lot more right now and you may not travel as much when you are retired? Or maybe it'll be vice versa. So figure out what your expenses are right now, and you could take about 80% of that and use that for your expenses in retirement. Or if you are pretty close to retirement, maybe you just want to use the same expenses. It's entirely up to you, and you can definitely change this number over time, but get a good estimate on what you feel your expenses will be in your retirement years and figure that out annually. You want to know what your expenses will be every single year and write that number down. We're going to come back to it later in the video. I did this for myself when I was figuring out how much I would need to retire. And since I did retire at a young age, my expenses are pretty much the same. I was already using my spending plan, aka a budget. I knew what my expenses would be because I was already keeping track of what my expenses were. I was using a Google Sheet, or I do use a Google Sheet, and a free app. It's called Empower. It used to be called Personal Capital. If that's something you're interested in, I will leave a link below. You can click on that and set up a free Empower account, but it just shows you your full financial picture in one place. And when I was really diving into this, I wrote everything on my marker board. I just wrote total amounts of all my different investments and all of my income and cash flow just to see where I was, so I could see exactly what I needed to become financially free. The second thing that you can do, and I honestly didn't do this part, but you can see what your estimated Social Security benefit would be. You can set up a free account on the Social Security website if you haven't done that already, and they will give you an estimate on how much Social Security you will receive, and you could minus that out of your calculations. Or since it's not a true guarantee, that could just be bonus money if you do end up receiving Social Security. The third thing we want to do is to figure out what passive income we already have. Maybe you already are receiving Social Security, so you will take your annual expenses and subtract out the annual amount you are receiving in Social Security. And maybe you have rental properties that you receive cash flow from, so you could subtract out the cash flow you are receiving every single year from your annual expenses. And I had someone that purchased my book reach out to me, and he wanted to figure out his financial freedom number, how much passive income he would need to retire. And he had sent me a breakdown, and he had included Social Security and a pension that he was getting. And he didn't realize he could subtract out those amounts because he would continue to receive those amounts every single year passively. So if you also have a pension that you are receiving, you can subtract out the annual amount that you would receive from your annual expenses. Just to give you a quick example, let's say your annual expenses are $50,000 and you receive $10,000 every single year in passive income. So we can now reduce our expenses to $40,000, and we're going to use that number later on. So write that number down. Write down your annual expenses and then any passive income you have and how much that is every single year. And now what we are going to do is figure out our actual financial freedom number. So we're going to take our annual expenses, subtract out any passive income that we have, whatever that is annually, and then we're going to multiply that number by the number 25. The reason we are multiplying it by the number 25 is because we are going to be pulling out 4% of our portfolio every single year to live off of. So with our original example, if we had $50,000 as our annual expenses and then we subtract out $10,000 for our passive income, then we would take $40,000 and multiply that by the number 25, and we would get $1 million. And that is the amount we want to have invested in order to create passive income for ourselves. So once we have $1 million invested, then we can retire and live off of that amount. And I'm going to add in another step. We want to be comfortable with the rate of return that we are going to be using for our money. Because if we think we are getting a 15% rate of return on our invested money, then we will have to have very little invested. But a pretty good rate of return that we can use is 7%. The average return on the US stock market is 10%. So if we adjust for inflation, which is usually 3%, then that is going to give us a 7% return on our investment. And I want to show you a calculator so that you can figure out your financial freedom number, that passive income that you will need in order to retire. And this is run by Jeremy, and he has an awesome Instagram account. I would highly recommend checking his Instagram account out if you haven't already. But let's take a look at his calculator. So we will just go with the example he already has in here. Let's say our age is 25 and we have a starting investment of $1,000. And then we have a monthly investment, $250. That's what we're contributing every single month. And our rate of return is 7%. And our desired retirement age is 65. And our annual cost of living is $48,000. So that would be our annual expenses. The amount we would need to have invested at retirement when we want to retire would be $655,803. So there are a lot of things being taken into account here. We are saying that we are age 25, so we have quite a bit of time before we retire at age 65. And we are planning to contribute $250 every single month from age 25 to 65. So you can definitely pull this calculator up for yourself and change these numbers around so that you can see exactly how much you need to be investing in order to retire when you want to. And of course, you can change around that rate of return if you want to make that a little bit lower and feel a little bit safer. And also, if you already have a significant amount of money invested, maybe you have $250,000 already, then you would put that in the field starting investment. You would put $250,000, and then you could see exactly how much more you would need to invest. And once we figure out that number, that passive income, how much we need in order to retire, then we definitely want to monitor our progress along the way. This is the next step, because sometimes our expenses may change. They may be different than what we originally planned, or we may be getting a higher return. So our investments have grown a lot quicker than we originally planned, or maybe our medical expenses are a lot higher than we thought. So just monitor your progress along the way so that you can feel comfortable with the amount of passive income that you originally projected that you would need in order to retire. And if you are finding this all very confusing and you want some guidance to help you figure out how to invest in the stock market and how to really figure out your financial freedom number, I have a free masterclass which goes over investing in the stock market and how you can work with me. I will leave a link to that below in the description. You can click on that link and watch the free masterclass. Comment below and tell me if you already know how much passive income you need to retire. And if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and share it with someone else who would like to hear this information. And hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the little bell to get notified on when I post new videos. And if you want to see even more great content from me, make sure and check out the videos on the side of the screen. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.